Hi there. In this video, I'll be talking a bit about the IELTS Writing Task 1 exam. If you are new to the Writing Task 1, then this video includes everything you need to know to make a good start on this, okay? We're not going to be covering everything to get a Band 9 score, because this is just a shorter video, but it will give you a good foundation for approaching this question. So, first things first, what is the academic writing task 1? Well, we have to write a report. We will have some data of some kind, and we have to write a report about it. Typically, the question will say something like, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. It sounds quite complicated, and a lot of students go into this and they get a lot of things wrong. So, first things first, let's get to know what are the possible question types you can have in this part of the exam. I'll display some examples of them on screen as I list them. Firstly, you could have a line graph. You can have a bar chart. You could also have a bar chart with age groups as well. Additionally, you may have a pie chart, perhaps tables, maybe a process diagram, lastly, a map type question, and then the final type, which many students really get scared of and they fear a bit, are the two type questions, where, for example, you could have a table and a pie chart together. So those are all the possible question types you can have in the exam, and you're going to have to write a report in 20 minutes that summarizes everything you can see. Now we're going to do an example here. Please know, this example is not a possible question in the exam. Okay, your exam is not going to have something like this. We're just doing a bit of a fun example because I want it to be engaging and interesting to help teach it to you. So, here's a little photo here showing England, okay? Imagine that you would like to move to England, okay? Maybe in the future you will. Maybe that's why you're taking the IELTS academic exam. And it shows the average house prices per area of England, right? And there's many areas here. And you're asking me, well, Nathan, could you please tell me a bit about house prices in the UK? I want to consider my budget carefully. Am I going to tell you about every single thing here? Am I going to say to you, well, hello, and then whatever your name is, and let's start from the top. This price is this, and then this price is this, and this one is this, and this one is... No, we're going to be there for 20 minutes talking if I do that. It's going to take way too long, and we simply don't have that time. So, instead of describing every single thing, you'd probably like just some general ideas, right? Maybe something like, the north is much cheaper than the south per area. Additionally, where's the most expensive area? Is there a pattern? Maybe you can see it. We would say the southeast, particularly the area around London, is where the average house price is extremely high. So we've covered the north, we've covered the southeast, then perhaps the last thing to describe would be the southwest, which in general appears to be a kind of medium, average house price, hovering somewhere between the 350,000 down to the 300,000, depending on the area. So then I could come to you with my report, and I'd say, hello there, and I'd say, well, here's my report, okay, and at the very start of the report, I would just say, the houses to the north are usually the cheapest in England. On the other hand, the houses to the southeast are typically the most expensive. And then finally, the houses to the southwest are kind of a moderate price. They hover somewhere around the middle. With that, you have a nice idea about, okay, I can choose where I want to go. But you didn't have to spend 30 minutes reading thousands of numbers, all the different places in the UK. So we saved you a lot of time. We would call these key features. Understanding key features, selecting them carefully, and presenting them well is one of the most important parts of writing a good report. because now we can talk a bit about how to structure your report. Your report's structure should have a little introduction. The introduction is typically 1, maybe 2 sentences long. Then we have what we call our overview paragraph. And in our overview paragraph, this is where we give our key features. For this imaginary situation here, which again is not a real exam question, you won't have this. Your key features in your overview would be the north are the cheapest, the southeast are the most expensive, and the southwest are in the middle. That would be your overview finished. Now you would improve the language a bit, use some nice vocabulary and grammatical structures, linking devices, but that's it. Okay. After your overview, where you present the main key features of the data, you can then proceed to writing the body paragraphs. The body paragraphs are your opportunity to actually give all that data. In the body paragraphs, you can then start to talk about the specific numbers. Okay, you can say, well, the areas around central London all range from a minimum of £400,000 to blah, 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 blah. That's where you give all those nice numbers and the details and the data for all the nerdy people who want to look at those numbers and analyze them. Okay. But our overview is not made for nerdy people. Our overview is made for the average person who does not want to look at numbers, but they still want to understand the key features of the data. So that's the overall structure of it. From here on out, we're going to look at a real example question. We're going to look at a real student's answer. And then lastly, we're going to look at real examiner feedback. Okay, so here's the question. Okay, you can see it says the chart below gives information about how families in one country spent their weekly income in 1968 and in 2018. We then have to summarize that information by selecting and reporting the main features, and lastly to make comparisons where relevant. So you would look at this here. Hopefully, can you remember what type of graph this is? Can you remember the name for it in English? We call it a bar chart in English. So the bar chart shows 2 years. It shows many different ways that families spent their money. The first thing you should do when you're doing academic writing task 1 is identify the key features of this. Some nice ideas we can typically think of are, what are the highest numbers? What are the lowest numbers? Which ones experienced the biggest change? Which ones experienced the smallest change? Which ones experienced positive change and which ones experienced negative change, as in they went downwards, okay? I can see, looking at this, that food was the highest spending in 1968, but then decreased quite a lot. It actually halved, really. And so on and so on. Some of them went up a lot, some of them went down, some of them stayed the same, all right? You would pick out your key features here and then write about them in your overview paragraph. We typically want to have around 3 key features in our overview. If you have many more than 3, then you're probably not doing an overview, you're probably writing a body paragraph. So you choose your key features here, talk about them in your overview, and then you'll move on to your body paragraphs. We're going to look at that example answer from a student now, and feel free to pause the video and take a read of this, okay? Hopefully now then you've finished reading this, and what are your thoughts on it? We can see they scored a band 5.5, so what do you think they did well and what do you think they didn't do well? We can have a look at the examiner comments. Here they are. Again, pause the video, take a read of the examiner comments, okay? Now that you're done reading them, we can see that there are some things they do well, okay? They do provide an overview, but it doesn't really summarize enough, okay? The examiner mentions that the student could have selected more main trends. They could have presented them better. For example, the student doesn't really present any main features. They only describe it in the final sentence, saying some spent rates had remained the same, whereas some of the alterations are quite noticeable. they don't really tell us what changed. They just say, oh, there was some changes and some things stayed the same. Well, duh, obviously, but we want to know what changed and what stayed the same, and by a lot or by a little. So they could have improved their overview. They do actually use a lot of nice vocabulary. They do even use some nice grammatical structures as well. But unfortunately, one of the biggest problems with this answer is that there is no real overview in this, okay? So that's pretty much going to be the end of the video here, okay? We've talked about the overall structure of writing task 1. We've talked about the possible questions you can have in it as well, about the importance of key features, and how also, please remember, we don't give specific numbers in our overview. We don't like numbers. They're not for nerds, the overview, okay? They're just simple, relaxed. They just talk about the features without giving the numbers for them. Lastly, one final part. When you're doing academic writing task 1, you do not do a conclusion, okay? It's not an essay, so you don't really include a conclusion of any kind. Similarly, you do not give your own opinions. You don't say good, you don't say bad, you don't say nice or anything like that, because this isn't your personal opinion. That's the essay question, okay? But this is just a professional, serious report. It should only talk about the data you can see. You are not going to give your own ideas. You're not going to talk about why you think this is, or whether you think this is a positive or negative thing. You're only going to state the facts that you can see in front of you in the data. So, thank you very much for watching this video. It was a bit longer than I expected it to be. And I am planning to make a kind of top 5 or top 10 common mistakes for writing task 1. When I have the time, I'll try to keep making more videos. I'm just a bit busy with teaching at the moment. But yeah, thank you very much and good luck with IELTS Academic Writing Task 1.